Cold open question of the week, Gary.
Yes, sir.
What's your favorite pizza topping?
Ooh, sausage.
Sausage. You didn't even have to think about that one.
Nope. No, this one was an easy question.
My favorite is bacon and sweet peppers.
Okay. I mean, if I have a choice, I'll go with the meats pizza. So sausage, pepperoni, bacon, ham. Yeah.
All on one.
I don't
just
do
like a meat lovers?
Basically, yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Well, you can't eat that on Fridays, Gary, because it's Lent.
I know. I forget, though.
Speaking of, let's start our show. Tonight on the Brian Lennon Show podcast, it's the one about Pagash with John Yablonsky. All right, so welcome into another episode of the Brian Lennon Show podcast, joined as always by my co-host, Gary McDaniel.
Hello, hello.
And tonight we have a very special guest. He is, he is the brains behind Pagash Reviews. Pagash, right?
Yeah, Pagash.
Pagash Reviews on Facebook. And we'll get more into his page as the night goes on. His name is John Yablonsky. And John, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks for having me. This is exciting.
We're thrilled to have you. The reason we have you on, especially this time of year, is it is Lent. And so for those of us, myself included, who are Catholic and abstain from eating meat on Fridays, we typically order just a plain cheese pizza. And I'm not sure if this is just local to Northeast PA, and you'll hopefully give us some insight, but there is a style of pizza called Pagash that does not contain any meat, and it's more of an onion and potato-based pizza. So just a disclaimer for anyone listening, you will be hungry after this episode, I'm sure, because I've been researching Pagash for a week now, and I can't wait to have some Pagash on Friday. But John, start by telling us a little bit about what Pagash is.
Yeah. So Pagash, the real Pagash, is Slovak, Ukraine, a little bit of Polish, potato bread, essentially. Potato bread dish. So the traditional Pagash is a potato bread dish from Slovak land. And I'm not exactly sure how, but somehow, many years ago, someone in Northeast PA decided to put it on a pizza. And so that really changed. There's the traditional Pagash, and then there's Pagash pizza. And,
okay.
And that's really what I'm about. So Pagash pizza is, as far as I know, only a Northeastern Pennsylvania thing. Outside of, I just recently learned in the last couple of weeks that there is a place in Alaska that also has Pagash pizza.
Okay.
To represent Northeast PA. But other than that, I've struggled to find it outside of Northeast PA.
Now, Gary lives in Florida now. He's moved down there. Gary, have you seen Pagash down in Florida?
So I have not. Of course, I haven't really been looking for it either. It's funny is because when you brought up having this episode, I was like, oh man, I forgot about Pagash. I used to get it from Andy's Pizza, right there in Peckville, used to make it. Yeah. And so I remember it from that, and I was like, oh man, I kind of could go for that now. So, but everything I look up for Florida it looks like maybe Fort Myers. You might be able to find some down that way, but nothing really in my area as of right now that I could see. Which surprised a lot of people from up north moved down this way, and then they start bringing pizza down this way. So, but and it was actually funny as one of our former guests just posted on Facebook the other day saying, "Hey, where can I get a good Pagash thin crust pizza?" And I was like, "Oh, well, you'll have to listen to our episode on Wednesday night to find out."
Yes, we've started kick up some dust here because there's a lot of people
Mm-hmm.
who kind of, especially in Northeast PA, and John, you maybe talk a little bit about this as far as like maybe the inspiration for the Facebook page. People around Northeast PA kind of look forward to Lent because a lot of the local pizzerias and pizza shops kind of put forth their own Pagash recipe.
Yeah. Yeah, it's crazy from when this started to today, how many new places seem to have Pagash on their menu. um, and it's every year there's more new places, and it's interesting to see it grow. It's fun. I don't even know how many places at this point have it on their menu, but every year there's new ones. And really the way this got started was just back in like 2013, we got Pagash for Lent one year, and and we had it a couple places, and then I forget if it was either my wife or myself was like, oh, next year we should just try to see if we can get it from a whole bunch of new places and then see who is better. And that was 2014, and we did that. And I mean, it was just a Facebook thing. I just posted it on my Facebook page, like, oh, I had this Pagash tonight, and it was good, or it wasn't great, or I never say anybody's isn't good, because I mean, it's a matter of opinion. But
Right.
I either say whether I say what I liked about it or what I didn't like about it, type of thing. And every year since then, it's grown. Where more and more places have it. And I just did it on my personal page for a couple of years, and honestly, I started it as a way to keep track for myself of where
Okay.
we ate it and what we liked about it. And I was just keeping it as a tracker. And it was funny because just friends or coworkers were like, "Oh, I thought you had this. Was it any good?" And then they asked because they wanted to know if they should try it. And every single year it grew. And finally, a couple of years ago, I was like, well, there's a lot more places. There seems to be a lot more, and a lot is a general term. I mean, it was a lot to me, it was like more than 10. But it was like a lot more people are asking about it. I should probably organize this a little bit more. So let me create like just what's it, a photo album, and I'll start a photo album by year, and that's kind of how it started. And after 2 years, it was like it grew again. And then I'm like, maybe I should just create this page. I see this page thing on Facebook. Let me just move it over to this page, and I did that. And the first year, I couldn't believe it. People were like, "Hey, how come you're not posting any Pagash reviews?" And I'm like, well, actually, I am. I just moved it over to this page. Here, let me invite you to this page. And then it grew more, and that's kind of how it happened. And it just keeps growing. But every single year, it's amazing to see how many new places there are that there weren't there last year. Because every year I look for new places to go try. Like, and that's what it is. It's just like every year I start, I'm like, okay, I know who I had before. I know what I liked. I know what I didn't like. Let me go find new places. And I'm pretty localized. I mean, it's fun for me. So I'm not traveling around PA. I'm not going miles. I'm not going during the day. This is a Wednesday and Friday thing during Lent. It's like you got 40 days. For me, it's a challenge, right? I've got 40 days to find as many new places that I haven't had and go try as many as I possibly can and see what I like about them. And just post that. And really it's really just to share with other people, to get them like, to get new small business out there, to get the names out there, and to let other people see, and to let other people go try it. That's really the only reason. It's not monetized or anything, at least not yet
Yeah.
today.
Yeah, no, I remember you posting just on your, Facebook page
Yeah,
during Lent, and I looked forward to it. I think it was, 2 or 3 years, and then it kind of turned into the
yeah.
page itself. And myself not being a local, like I wasn't born in Northeast PA. So I didn't have Pagash until a few years after you started the page. 'Cause I was like, okay, I've got to try some of this.
Mhm.
And I've only had it once, and it was
That's
from Luigi's an Elephant.
also disappointing.
And I picked it up, and I could not get over the heft of the pizza. It was so heavy, and I came home, ate 2 pieces, and I felt like I had like lead balloons in my stomach.
Did you like it or no?
I liked it, but I couldn't eat that much of it.
You can't eat a lot. You definitely can't. It's heavy, and that's one of the things I look for. Like when I pick it up, when I go to a place and I pick up the order, if that box is heavy, I'm like, yeah, like I feel. As opposed to if I grab it and it's light, I'm disappointed. Like right off the bat, I'm disappointed. But there's nothing wrong with Luigi's. Like I said, I don't like to talk bad about any of them because they're all different. But I'll tell you, like to me, there's square, and I realized this a couple of years ago. Square versus round Pagash, and Luigi's is round, right? They're different worlds. Like they are night and day. And I think a lot of it is because of the crust. And then this year, I mean,
I'm sorry, I have to stop you. It wasn't Luigi's, it was Lou's.
it was Lou's. All right. Well, Lou's is a staple.
Lou's is square.
Lou's is square. It's forever. It's also an elephant. It's down the road, right? Same street, basically. Lou's is,
Yes.
and then Lou's is probably the first Pagash I've ever had. That's probably what started it for me because I grew up an elephant. Always had Lou's. Lou's is awesome. They make it all year round. It's good. I mean, Lou's is so different. The crust is like it's that flaky crust. It's kind of lighter. It's heavy, but the crust itself is a little bit lighter. It's flaky. Tons of cheese, tons of potato filling. Lou's is good. Lou's is good. I'm going to say that because you can get Lou's all year round, it's not my go-to during Lent because I can get it all year round, right?
Okay.
But Lou's is good. But that being said, there's round and there's square and there's completely different. And I realized a couple of years ago, the first couple of rounds I had, and Luigi's was one of them, I was disappointed because I was comparing it to the squares, and I'm like, it's so different. The crust is different. It's that New York style crust, and that potato filling on top of it just tastes so. It just tastes different. Like the whole combination of that filling and that crust tastes different. It took me a couple rounds to realize that I didn't like any of them, and that wasn't fair to compare to squares. So I realized that I should really do a completely separate review of like, here's all the squares I love. But to be fair, some people like these rounds. So let me completely give ratings about rounds separately or my reviews. And that expanded to this year. All these this year, there's Detroit style crusts and pan fried crusts and double crust.
There's double crust. I know the double crust has been the big
Yeah. This year is
new addition this year.
all the different ones. And I mean, if you looked at my latest review, like I think it was last week, I branched out and tried the double crust because I was so excited. They look amazing. And just like the first time I tried the rounds, I was so let down.
Now, for people listening, you go. It's kind of funny because you go into pretty good detail of each piece that you try. So, what are some of the key items that you're looking for? I just have it written down here. Like you're looking at the crust, the cheese, onions, and potatoes, and you kind of judge. Those are your the rubric, I guess you could say, of the pizza.
Yeah, it's a pretty simple dish. So that's the basic main components. So that's why I'm looking at them. But yeah, I mean, here's the way it goes. When I pick that, so I eat them all, I bring them all home. So it's kind of an adventure for me. So I go to the place, I pick it up. And when I grab that box, the weight is the first thing. And if it's heavy, like I said, I'm usually happy about that because I know there's some love put into it. If it's light, I'm initially let down. I'll put that thing in the car. I'll usually take a look at it and visually see how it looks, just in case there's any traffic accidents on the way home and it gets moved around. I want a visual representation first, but I'll put that in the car, and this is huge for me, honestly. The trip home, the way that it smells in the car, like, I don't know if you can believe me, but I get so excited when I'm driving home. Like when that thing is in the back, because I put it in the back seat of the car, and I usually keep the heat on to try to keep it warm. When I smell it, if I smell it, it's like just like it's building up, and I'm so happy to get home and then reopen the box and try it. And if I don't smell it, it's kind of like if the box is light, I'm just like, I'm not getting excited about it. So there's definitely been reviews where I'm like, oh my God, the ride home was the best ride home. But it's just that smell. But then when I get home, I usually take another picture, kind of like, what it looks like, and then go into the taste. And for me, it's the crust. Like it starts with the crust because you pick it up, you feel it, you see it. Is it floppy? You know what I mean? It's like, how do you pick it up? Do you need a whole hand underneath? Do you need 3 fingers? Do you need one? Like that's my rate. Like, can I do a 1 finger underneath? Or can I do my 2 finger pinch, I call it, where it's just like I'm grabbing the crust and that thing is solid and it's heavy and it's not flimsy. And that's kind of my rating scale of how I judge that crust. Because personally, I don't like a flimsy crust. I like it little crispier, a little crunchier. I like it to be able to hold out. So that's what I'm looking for. I guess I'm personally a fan of really that square Old Ford style crust, where it's
Right.
like crunchy, but it's kind of like it's airy, but it holds that weight, and that's really what I love. I don't like the flimsy crusts. But then it's what's on top of the crust, right? I mean, on the top, you've got the cheese layer, and it's what does the cheese look like? What does it taste like? What kind of cheese is it? That matters. And then in the middle, it's all that potato filling. And I mean, that potato filling is where it's at. And usually I like take a little scoop out of the middle. And I taste just the filling to see if the filling actually has a good potato taste. Well, it's basically like a pierogi. For anybody who knows what a pierogi is, it's a pierogi pizza, right? I mean, it's just
Right.
mashed potatoes with fried onions and like the right amount of that greasiness from the fried onions, that potato filling, but instead of in a pierogi dough, it's on top of a pizza crust, and then there's cheese on top of it. That's all it is when it comes down to it. So I like to try the filling, see what the flavor is. I like to taste the cheese. I like the onions, so I like the onion ratio, but I don't like when any one of those things overpowers the other. Like I like a nice balance. I like to be able to bite into it and think about it and be like, wow, yeah, if I think about it, I could taste the cheese, I could taste the filling, and that's why I taste it separately. Like I could still taste the filling, I could taste the crust. The crust actually has a taste to it, and it's not just like a dough taste, and it's not just crunchy. But when I can taste those 3 things, like the potato filling, the top cheese layer, the crust, a little bit of onions, nothing overpowering, that's a good taste for me. And a nice crisp crust that's not floppy. I mean, that does it for me.
Very passionate about.
I don't know why, but I love Pagash.
All right. Now, what was I going to ask? I forgot my question here. So people been looking. We were tagged in a. Well, I tagged you because I was advertising you coming on the podcast here. So someone who was looking for a good Pagash pizza.
Yeah.
I'm not going to ask you your personal favorite yet, But if someone in, say, the Mid Valley area here in Northeast PA is, you know, maybe like a beginner Pagash, what would you suggest? What are there specific ones you would suggest?
Yeah, there are
Establishment.
people that ask me, and I always ask them a question. Like, I don't want to just answer it. I actually want to find out more because I just think that's fair. Like, honestly, I want to know where they want to go. Because I mean, some people want to go 5 minutes down the road, and some people are okay to go 30 minutes down the road. And I don't want to send somebody 30 minutes down the road and have them hate it. So like, that's my first question is like, well, where do you want to go? Like, how far? Because I mean, it's mostly from the Mid Valley. It's basically from Carbondale to Old Forge, I guess, that I've, traveled myself. Like I said in the beginning, I'm not really traveling afar to go try all the Pagashes I can. And I know they're further out there, but definitely from Carbondale to Old Forge, I've hit as many as I possibly could in the last couple of years off. So if somebody tells me like, I want to go between, like Dixon or Peckville or whatever, I want to stay in the Mid Valley, that helps. And I'll zone in on that. And then it's like, well, I don't know what they like. Do they like onions? Do they want square? Do they want round? Do they like Old Forge? I'll usually ask a couple questions. And then from there, I'll be able to give a recommendation. And it's usually more than one. I'll say like, I would try this one or this one or this one. This is what I like about them. And it comes down again personally to me, but I try to take into consideration what they like. Because if they say, I want a New York style round Pagash that's delicious, I'd be like, well, go to Luigi, or go to Tony's or go to Andy's, because they're all round pizzas. But it really depends what they like, because they're all different, honestly. All three of those, even they're all round, I just mentioned, but they're all different. They all taste completely different. Yeah.
Now, is Andy's Pagash on their traditional crust?
Yeah, it is.
Okay, so it would be much different than like a New York style
exactly.
pizza crust.
A traditional crust, it's their cheese, their traditional cheese, right? So it's their cheese topping, but it's got that potato filling in it. So, and it's good. Personally, I'm not a fan of Andy's regular pizza though, right? So,
really?
Yeah, I probably just got a lot of haters right there, but personally, I'm not. But if you love Andy's pizza and you want to try Pagash, you should go to Andy's because it's unreal, right? When you factor in those things, it's unreal.
Okay. Now, the other aspect I've seen you mention, this was the question I was going to ask you before, is I guess there's different textures too to the potatoes depending on where you go to, as well as the onions, like a fine onion, whereas more chunky onions in other establishments.
Yeah. So let me start with onions because I think that's easier. Like, it comes down to, are they cooked or are they raw? I like onions, but I don't like raw onions. So if it's raw onions, I'll usually ask them not even to put it on it, like if they offer it, or I'll ask them like, is there onions on it and are they cooked? So some people just put raw onions on top. Other places cook them, and then it's it's just, if they cook them, I mean, they're all basically sauteing them somehow. So it just really comes down to how much they saute them. Some people don't saute them a lot, and they're still really crunchy and crispy and hard. And personally, I don't like that. I really don't want to crunch into the onion too much. I like to almost overly sauteed. Like, I like that buttery onion, pierogi-y onion taste. So personally, that's what I'm looking for, but I also don't want it overpowered. I mean, there's been some that is the perfect onion, but it's just overwhelming amount. So it's a nice, like for me, it's finding that nice balance where, again, it goes back to, there's not one overwhelming taste of any one of those things. Like, it's just getting that nice balance. Mm-hmm. So the onions is pretty easy for me. Like, is there onions or is there not? And then what kind are they? The filling, I mean, there's a little bit that goes into the filling, because is it instant potatoes or is it real mashed potatoes? And I'm pretty sure there's places that use instant potatoes and don't own up to using instant potatoes. Mm-hmm. And I'm pretty sure that there's places that I've had that use instant potatoes that are not bad. So to me, I don't I don't think it much matters if it's instant or not, as well as how they prepare it. Uh, and as long as they put the preparation into it and get the filling to taste right with the butter and the onion, like I hate when it tastes just like a potato, and that
Mhm.
could be whether it's instant or regular, right? I
Yeah.
mean, there's different considerations there, but when you can, sometimes when I taste it and it's like this tastes like if I was drinking the water that the potatoes were boiled in,
Ooh.
like sometimes it tastes like that. I'm like, yeah, it's not doing it for me. And I have a couple more bites and I'm like, okay, well, if I don't just eat the filling and I eat the whole thing together, are the rest of them overpowering it? And when they're not, I'm not happy. When they are, I'm usually still not happy because I can't get that initial taste out of my head. And I hold that against them still. But yeah, there's that. So I don't want it to taste like a boiled potato. That's probably my number one thing. Whether it's instant or not instant, don't taste like a boiled potato. And then it comes down to the texture. I personally like a medium texture. Like I don't like the really fine pureed, which is almost what you would get if it was an instant potato. But like I said, I've definitely think I've had some instant potato ones that they somehow made them lumpy and they were perfectly
Okay.
fine for me. But I've always personally been a fan of lumpy mashed potatoes. So that's essentially what I'm looking for. I don't like the ones that have huge chunks in them. And even if it's like huge chunks with a bunch of medium texture, the huge chunks just throw me off. Like I don't know, just the texture in my mouth. I don't like that. So I like a nice medium balance. So that's my consideration for the whole potato filling. Like I don't want to taste potato water and I want a nice medium filling. I probably like a finely pureed over large lumpy potato. I'm not a fan of the lumpy potato, like the real potato with chunky ones. That's what I
Okay.
want.
Now I know you're on Fridays. You have probably two or three different
Yeah.
Pagash selections. So is that what you're doing now? Is trying to hit three locations a week?
Yeah, I mean that's only the last couple of years. It was usually once, we'd do one stop. We definitely don't need more than one. But honestly, with all the places that just started doing them now, and with all the places that you can only get them during Lent,
Hmm.
I've been trying to do more than one. And I usually ask like, do you serve half trays? And I'll get a couple half trays so that we're not, having a bunch of full trays. But yeah, I'll usually try to do two or three. I map it out and it's like, okay, I can get this place and this place and this place in one run. So let me call up and order them, and I'll be like, all right, can I pick you up at 6 and you up at 6:15 and you up at 6:30 type of thing, and I'll just grab three places. And then I do that whole how does it smell from one place to the other in between, because they start to mix them. That gets complicated. But yeah, that's what I've been trying to do. And we've been trying to have other people come over. So like usually if you see three, there's usually somebody else here eating them with us. We're not like just throwing it away. So yeah,
Yeah, because I was wondering too, like with all the calories and stuff,
a lot. Yeah, I'm usually still usually only eating like, I mean, it's a lot. It's usually 3 or 4 slices a night. Like if we get three, what'll happen is like I'll have one of each, and then whichever one I like the best, I'll have another one of that. Like, I
Another
will
one of that.
finish with whichever one I like the best, and that's how I'll finish the night. And then I'll post the review. You know what I mean? Because it's like as I'm eating them, I'm basically I'm taking notes of what I like, what I don't like. They're just really sloppy notes. I'm taking notes, and then I'll get to that last one, and it's like, all right, I liked this one the best. Let me have it again, and then I'll put all the notes together, and I'll usually just post my review before I change my mind or forget.
All right. We're still going to get to your favorite Pagash, but for this year,
Yeah.
which one that you've tried this year has stood out to you?
Cosmos cheesesteaks, Scranton, unreal,
Okay.
unreal. I mean, Cosmos started doing pizza, and I was excited to go try the pizza, and I hadn't gotten down there to try it. It's the Detroit style pan fried pizza. I think it's a combination of the both, like a Detroit style pan fried pizza. I was super excited when I saw it. Haven't gotten down there. It was weird because he doesn't have it all the time. And literally the first night, the first Wednesday, Ash Wednesday, Pagash, I opened up Facebook and started to plot out, like, I thought about it all day. Usually when I'm working, I'm sitting here and I'm thinking about, like, all right, where am I going to go? I'm trying to regionalize, like, how far do I want to drive? What do I want to do this? So I was thinking about it, and Scranton was not where I was going to start, but I opened up Facebook at the end of the day, and I saw Cosmos post that he had Pagash, and I'm like, you got to be kidding. And I just go, all right. And I hurry up and I flipped over to my notes. I'm like, all right, well, if I go to Cosmos, where else can I hit? I'm like, all right, Da Vinci's. There was a couple other ones. So I called up Cosmos, and I was like, can I get a Pagash? How long will it take? He's like, 20 minutes. I'm like, oh, okay, I'll take it. Which is never 20 minutes. It's been crazy this year. It's usually like at least an hour wait.
It's an hour wait this year, yeah.
An hour wait. So he's like 20 minutes. I'm like, okay. Which honestly, I was like, that's a little weird. But I wasn't so sure about that. But I ordered it, and I called up Da Vinci's, and I ordered them. I'm like, how long? Like 25 minutes. I'm like, all right, can you delay that a little bit? So I ordered those two, and I forget who the third was. But it ended up they didn't have it on Wednesdays. They only had it on Fridays. I remember that because we were going to go with 3. And so we went with those 2. And I mean, I was blown away. Like when I had that Cosmos one, it was unreal. Like it's just, I don't know. I guess I like to set the bar low on things to begin with. So I wasn't planning to be overly impressed. It was unreal. I mean, so if anybody's listening, go to Cosmos while he's got Pagash, because it's legit.
Okay.
It's ridiculous. Huh. It's definitely it's definitely making me wonder if it's definitely competing for first, honestly, on my favorite.
First, okay.
Which was not expected going into Sunday.
And back to, I think we maybe veered off of this question. If someone's looking for just kind of like a welcome to Pagash, here's what Pagash is like, where would you kind of direct them to go to? Would it be Lou's?
Probably not. No, I wouldn't go to Lou's for a couple of reasons. One, you can get it all year round. So if you've never had it before and you want to try Lou's, go get it in the off season because you can. So I wouldn't say go to Lou's. Anybody that has it all year round, I wouldn't say get theirs during Lent. Sort of. There is one place which is on the top of my list, which I've gotten both in the off season and during Lent, and I do, and that's Vidaros. So it depends where it goes. Like, it might be Vidaros. Like honestly, Vidaros, they've got round, they've got square, they've got cauliflower crust, and they've got double crust now. I wouldn't go there for the double crust, but personally, that's me. Everybody else seems to love it. But all 3 of the other ones last year, we started the season off the first night. We went to Vidaros and we got all 3. We got their round, we got their square, and we got their Pagash. Amazing. All 3 of them, absolutely amazing. And I think that theirs just has at least those 3, in my opinion, have a little bit of the best of everything. So like if you want to try it, I would probably say go there. Because from there, I think you can go different ways, whether you want a different crust or a different filling or a different cheese. But even if you go there, you have the option to get square, round, and a thin cauliflower crust. You mentioned thin crust before. They're one of the only ones that have like thin crust, at least that I've had, or at least that I've seen. There's not a lot of thin crust around, and that's their Pagash. And all 3 of those were unreal. And I just think that I think theirs is absolutely, in my opinion, theirs is one of the best in the area. And they're a place that does have it all year round, though. So that's another thing to consider. Like you can go there and get it all year round. So do you want to? But I still think theirs is a great starter to be like, do you want to go with a different crust or a different cheese filling?
So it's kind of a good jumping off point
Yeah.
as to where you want to go.
Yeah.
All right. And then I guess finally, for you, Mr. Pagash Review, if you're on your deathbed or you're on death row and you got one more Pagash pizza to have, where's John Yablonsky going to get his Pagash from?
I'm gonna go to Ferries. I'm gonna go to Ferries in Moscow. It's I mean, they're just the best. I think they're the best right now. And it's weird. They weren't my number one going into this in 2013. Somebody else, Green Ridge was, but I don't even know. They don't make it as far as I know anymore. As last year I ordered, they said they don't. Love Green Ridge. They're the ones who got this started. And it was like, because Green Ridge was so, you'd call them up and they're like, not open, or they don't answer the phone, or they don't have it. It's like, well, where else can we get it from? And that's kind of what started the ball rolling. It's like, where else can we get it from? Which led us to find somewhere else, which led us to like, well, who else makes it? And that's kind of what got the ball rolling. If Green Ridge still made Pagash, they might still be number one. But I don't know if they do, because they don't answer the phone. And when they last year when they did answer the phone, they said they didn't. And I don't know if that was just for the day. They're so sketchy. So that being said, Ferries, I know they consistently make Pagash every year during Lent, and it's unreal. And for that reason, they've been my number one, like ever since 2013, like 2014 beyond. Ferries became my number one. And that said, like I haven't had Ferries this year. I didn't start with Ferries last year. I don't think I started with Ferries last year because I hold them at such a high regard. Like I just feel like they set the bar. And basically I go into every season thinking like, look, they're awesome. I know where the bar is at, and everybody else is probably under it. So I'm basically just looking for a number two and below. Like every year I go into it looking to see if there's going to be a new number one, but there's always something that comes back to me saying, nah, they're the best number two, but Ferries is still my number one. And I'll tell you right now, I can say that for Cosmos. As much as I just said I loved Cosmos 2 minutes ago, if you looked at my review, I was like, I don't know, the crust was salty. It wasn't salty. That was just my taste bud. But for that reason, I put them at number two.
Now is that Ferries in Moscow? Is that the one that used to be down in like Taylor?
Yeah, yes.
Okay.
That original one was in, I believe it was Taylor, like the Taylor Old Forge area. I believe it was Taylor proper. That one closed. The one in Moscow remained. Mr. Ferry original passed away a couple of years ago, but the one in Ferry, the one in Moscow is the official Ferry's Pizza, and they're amazing.
All right, I'll have to. I was thinking that was the one is your favorite, so I think that might be the one I try next to.
Yeah, I would definitely recommend.
Experience that.
Yeah.
Now you're kind of a foodie as well. In addition to Pagash, you experience a lot of dining experiences around Northeast PA.
Yeah, I do eat other.
And Jill and I are always kind of looking for places to eat, and we always end up going back to like the same place. So for people who are maybe looking to branch out to experience some other dining options, give us some recommendations of other places you would like to eat.
So when we go out, we don't go out a ton, but when we do go out, we like. We like what we like, so we look for some certain things. We kind of like pubish style foods, but we definitely like a non-barish atmosphere. So like some of our go-tos are like we love Ale Mary's. I think the menu's great, the atmosphere is good. Love Market Street Bar and Grill. Same reason, the menu's great. The food options are like, it's not bar food, but you're sitting right at you could be sitting right at the bar, but it's not bar food. The atmosphere is great. Love the Loading Dock. They're a little bit more bar-y food, but
My one complaint with the loading dock is I cannot hear anything. The acoustics are horrible there.
Yeah, the acoustics aren't great. My bigger complaint is how long it waits to get a table if it's like, busy. It's usually busy.
It's usually busy.
Yeah.
Food is delicious, but
I love the food. It's
now
bar,
that
it's bar-y food, like great wings with cheesesteaks. But
now that Market Street, is that the one down in Wilkes-Barre?
no, Market Street on Market Street in North Scranton. Market Street
In North Scranton.
I think it's called. I forget. It used to be a bar. It's right across the street from an Italian restaurant and a tire store. It's right on the corner. Market.
Did it used to be the Fifth Amendment or the 16th?
Think so. That sounds right. Something.
Okay.
Yeah. It's right on the corner there.
I know where you're talking.
I mean, I don't know if it's the same chef, but great food. I personally like a great menu. It's a different menu. Like they've got ramen bowls and and like burgers and a little bit of every I don't know, a little bit of interesting menu. Really, really good. I really like their menu. That's the type of places we like to go to. Old Brook, love Old Brook. Same thing, like nice atmosphere, good menu. Yeah, they're pretty much our go-tos.
Okay, I'll have to try those out. The other thing I want to talk to you about is you make homemade sopressata.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit how you got into that and.
So when it's not wet and I can eat meat, sopressata. I've always loved sopressata or the Italian, any of the Italian shouldery type of meats that you cut up and eat with cheese type of thing. Love sopressata, spicy dry sausages, essentially, for anybody who doesn't know what sopressata is, which apparently people don't. I'm not sure they live in this area. I would expect everyone that lives in this, in the Mid-Valley area to know what sopressata is. But there are people outside of this area that don't.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I've always loved spicy sopressata. And my buddy, Rick, actually a couple of years ago, he made it. He was making it with an old Italian lady that lived up the road. Authentic stuff. And it was great. Like he let me try his. It was unreal. I mean, I loved it. She passed away and left him the recipe and the and he asked me, he's like, hey, you want to make sopressata? Yeah, I do. So that's how we got into it. I got into it with him. We made it the first year. It was kind of a small batch for ourselves, and personally really liked it. Gave it to a couple of people to try, and they liked it, and they asked if they could buy it, because that's kind of a thing in our area. Like if somebody makes it home and they're like, "Oh, are you selling it?" We weren't. We didn't make it. We really just made a small amount for ourselves, and
right.
So that first year was like, we didn't make enough to sell or anything. We just made enough to try for ourselves. But we took that feedback and it's like, will you buy it? Maybe we'll make more next year. Yeah, if you make more, let me know. All right. So the next year we made more. And we reached out to those same people who said they were interested in buying it. And they did. They bought it. And, and then more people wanted it than we had. So we had to turn people away again. Year 3 came around, and there's a sopressata contest in Carbondale, in Childs, I guess it is. Meredith Hose Company has an annual sopressata contest, and they didn't have it for a couple of years because of COVID. But
right.
Year 3 for us came around, and they were having it again for their first year since COVID. And we were like, we should enter this. Why not? Like, there's going to be 25 different sopressatas that we can go drink beer and eat meat and hang. Like there is no downside to this.
Nope.
We're probably not going to win because it's with a bunch of people who've done this for years and years and years, but we get to go drink beer and eat meat.
Mm-hmm.
So we entered this contest, and we took first place, which was
Nice.
unreal to us. Um,
Wow.
like, I mean, we were just so stoked when, you know, they called fourth place and they called third place and they called second place. And we thought we knew which number we were. It's totally random. Like they don't put who's. It's all assigned a random number. But ours has a distinct taste. And we were pretty sure that we were number 22. Like we were sure we were number 22. And they called second place, and we were drinking a lot of beer, and we definitely did not think we were going to win. They're like, and for first place, number 22. And I just looked at them and I'm like, you kidding me? He's like, Johnny Blonsky and Wick Weir. We're like, oh my God. So yeah, we were stoked that we took this, you know, first place. It was our third year making it, just a hobby. We were tweaking it every year, the recipe a little bit different, and the people liked it apparently. So that's kind of how it got started. And that was last year. So this year, we made it again, and throughout that, we had a lot more people say they were interested in buying it. So we made more, and we tweaked it a little bit. We took the feedback. You know, some people said it's too salty, it's a little soft, it's not spicy enough. So we took that all into consideration. We used less salt and a lot more pepper, and we let it sit a little longer. And I'm really excited about this year. We're going to do the same thing at Meredith Hose Company. We're going to enter the competition, and hopefully, you know, we're going in as defending champs. Hopefully, we place again. But I'm stoked. We make a sweet, a regular hot, and an extra hot. Our extra hot has, last year we just did ghost pepper, and people said it wasn't hot enough. So this year we stepped it up. We used ghost pepper and Carolina Reaper and Scorpion. Honestly, I haven't even tried it yet because it's not done. Our hot finished early. So I had our hot a couple of weeks ago. Personally, I think our hot is delicious. I think it was better than last year. It's definitely hotter. It's definitely less salty. I had a bunch of feedback from it already. People have loved it this year. And people that have had it last year as well said, you know, they liked it better this year. So I'm super excited. I think our hot is phenomenal this year. I am really looking forward to try our super hot. I'm a little worried because of how hot came out. Our hot came out a little bit hotter than I thought it was going to. So I am a little worried about how hot the extra hot's going to be. But we did intentionally make it hoping that it was going to be that melt your face out hot. Like it's not the one that you're going to want to slice up and just sit there and eat. You know, it's almost like that chip challenge where you're putting something on. You know, like, that's kind of how we did it. I love spicy stuff. I wanted to see how hot we can make it, but still be tolerable. You know what I mean? Like not like I want to. Hopefully, it comes out. My hope is that it's super hot, where it's like it's oh my God, but then as soon as the oh my God goes away, you're like, give me another one, and you don't want to stop eating it. You know, but you also don't want to like keep shoving them in. I'm hoping that's where we get. So we'll see. I think it's probably 2 more weeks, and we'll that one should be done.
Now, when is that event up at the Meredith Hose?
It's in
Meredith
May.
Street Hose.
Yeah,
in May. Okay.
I don't know the exact date. It should be in May, before or after Mother's Day, right around Mother's Day. It should be in May, right around Mother's Day.
Okay.
Definitely encourage anybody who loves Sopressata to go up there. I believe it's $20 a ticket. I think that's what it was prior years, but you get a ticket, you go in. There's, you know, a whole bunch of different Sopressats there from anybody who enters the competition. You go, you try the meat. There's cheese out. There's usually like the peppers and crackers. It's like a whole smorgasbord of meat and cheese and crackers that you can eat. There's usually the Lonza. The hose company makes their own Lonza too, which is phenomenal. We're making that with them this year too because we like Lonza, but they offered to let us make it with them, so we made some of that. And then you know, there's wine and beer on tap, and local draft beers, you know, just draft beers, regular domestic draft beers, and it's a good time.
Now, what beer would you pair with your, say, hot Sopressata?
Oh my God, you know, I don't even know. Honestly, I wouldn't. If I was just gonna go with a domestic beer, I'm a Miller Lite guy, so that's my go-to, like regular domestic beer is Miller Lite. You know, if I'm not drinking Miller Lite, I'm usually drinking an IPA. But personally, to go with it, you should be drinking a nice, red dry wine with the sharp provolone, sharp cheddar, or Parmigiana cheese. That's the way you should be eating it, you know.
All right.
Sopressata, sharp cheese, and a nice dry red wine. That's how I eat it. I don't normally.
Gary, we're learning something tonight.
I know, and
See?
we get that a lot down here. So we'll get our supersada usually around. Well, yeah, we do it around Christmas and all that. We'll get some and we'll sit there. But yeah, that's my wife usually puts it with cheese and then we'll eat it that way. So some
That's
crackers.
what we put it up. We put it up in December. Usually like the middle of December we start it. It's basically 2 weekends of drinking where we mix it one weekend and we drink and we let it sit for 48 hours and then a couple days later, I guess it's the same weekend, but it's a long weekend. A couple days later, we stuff it and we drink some more and then we let it sit for usually 3 months. It's usually like 12 weeks. But the hot was done in about 8 this year, which is just it's interesting. I think it's the weather change. We do it old school. Like a lot of people still they do it in a refrigerator or a walk-in cooler, climate controlled, humidity controlled, very accurate to not let it go bad, and much easier to know like how long it's going to take. We don't. We do it in my buddy Rick's. He's got an old coal cellar under his front basement that he, half of it he turned into a nice bar, and the other half is still empty, walls. But we've got a little bit of technology in there with Wi-Fi, humidity, and temperature sensors, and a fan to turn on and circulate the air, and an in and out exhaust fan that'll pull cold air up. So like there's a little bit, it's not like we're just hanging it under. We're definitely monitoring it.
Yeah.
But it's hanging from the ceiling under, it's hanging from his ceiling in a basement with unfinished walls. Yeah, a little more legit.
Yeah. Old school.
Yep.
All right. Speaking of unfinished, we can't finish the show without some news of the weird. And now it's time for news of the weird with your host, Gary McDaniel. All right. So, John, this is the part of the show where Gary reads us news of the weird stories.
Yes. So sticking with some food theme here. German ice cream parlor offers cricket flavored scoops. A German ice cream parlor has expanded its menu with a skin crawling offering, cricket flavored scoops with dried brown crickets on top. The unusual confection is available at Thomas McIlnoy's store in southern Germany's town of Rottenburg am Neckar, German news agency DPA reported Thursday. McIlnoy has a habit of creating flavors that are far outside Germans' typical preference for strawberry, chocolate, banana, and vanilla ice cream. In the past, he's offered livered sausage and gorgonzola cheese ice cream, as well gold-plated ice cream for €4. I am a very curious person and want to try everything, McIlnoy told DPA. I've eaten a lot of things, including a lot of strange things, and crickets were something I still wanted to try, also in the form of ice cream. That he has now produced, the cricket flavor is due in European Union regulation that allows the use of the insects in food. Under the regulation, crickets may be frozen, dried, or used as powder. The EU already allowed migratory locusts and flower beetle larvae as a food additive, DPA reported. McIlnoy's ice cream is made of cricket flavor, heavy cream, vanilla extract, and honey, and he tops it with a dried whole cricket. It has a surprising yummy taste, or at least that's what he wrote on Instagram.
Have you ever had crickets, John?
No, I've never had crickets. I have had a cricket protein bar. Forget what it's called. Saw it on Shark Tank one year. It was some cricket protein bar and we ordered them in several different flavors. They were not terrible.
Ooh. I think my son had crickets. They might have been chocolate covered crickets at Boy Scout camp
Oh,
this past summer. I
Huh.
think they were crickets.
I have had crickets.
were they good?
Yeah, actually, they weren't bad.
Yeah.
They're a friend of ours brought back from when he came back from Japan, I think it was, and he brought back little packets of them or whatever, and we tried. They dared us all to be trying them. I'm like, yeah, give it to me, whatever. And yeah, I mean, it was almost like it's been a while since I had it, but it was crunchy, but it had like almost like a peanut taste.
Yeah, that sounds right. It was like a
So
peanut
yeah,
from the bar. Yeah.
but like I said, there wasn't. I mean, it was the looking at it and
Yeah.
putting in your mouth, but once you got it in and you started eating, you're like, oh, that's actually not that bad. But it was that first. Ooh, that doesn't look like something I should be eating, but whatever. Yeah.
What would you pair a cricket with, John,
Probably
to,
beer.
to drink?
A lot of beer. Probably a lot of beer.
Yeah. A couple shots of whiskey.
Yeah.
Oh man. All right. And then let's stay over in the UK here. So olive oil in coffee, new Starbucks line, a curiosity in Italy. Putting olive oil in coffee is hardly a tradition in Italy, but that didn't stop Starbucks interim CEO Howard Schultz from launching a series of beverages that do just that in Milan. The coffee olive oil concoction, echoing a keto-inspired trend of adding butter to coffee, only with the sugary twist, has provoked both amusement and curiosity among Italians. Gambero Rosso, an Italian food and wine magazine, called the mixing of olive oil with coffee a curious combination, but said it was reserving judgment, having not yet sampled the drinks. It did praise featuring the staple of Italian kitchens as a main ingredient, not just a condiment. The magazine also noted the health benefits of consuming extra virgin olive oil, which some Italians do habitually straight from the bottle. Did we need coffee with extra virgin olive oil and syrup? Maybe yes, maybe no, wrote the magazine's Michael Becci. But the chance to promote Italian excellence is a valuable one, she added. Italy's Olive Oil Producers Association welcomed the daring innovation, saying the line of drinks could relaunch the image of olive oil, especially among young people. The association has been promoting adding olive oil to cocktails.
Good.
I can see that.
That I'd never even heard of putting butter in coffee, but I could almost see the allure of that as well.
Mm-hmm.
I've heard of that recently, just like in the last month or so. I read that somewhere or saw that somewhere that was a thing.
Is that part of a keto diet?
I have no idea. Do I look like someone that goes on diets? No, I have no idea.
But what olive oil? I don't like the taste of olive oil by itself. But I could see maybe infused with coffee, it might make it more pleasant and have a different taste of on the coffee as well. Do you drink coffee, John?
I do. Yep, I drink at least 1 cup a day usually, and
Okay.
I like olive oil. I don't think I would normally think of, hey, let me go put some olive oil in my coffee, but if we're talking about it. I like olive oil. I like coffee, and I'm almost curious to wonder what I feel like it would introduce a different texture to the coffee, almost like maybe make it a little syrupy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like I might not hate that. The same thing with the butter. I just saw that, like I said, not that long ago. And at first I was like, butter in coffee, and then I was like, that might not be that bad.
No.
Yeah, because it's like you put cream in coffee, it's like
Yeah.
Right. And I don't put any sugar in my coffee.
I don't either. Yeah, I usually just drink my coffee black.
Yeah, so I put cream in it,
I jam mine
but
up.
I don't put any sweetener in it. So I'm thinking the butter might give it a little bit of a sweeter
Mhm.
or different kind of sweet taste to it.
Yeah. I don't know. I might have to try the
Yeah,
olive
we
oil
should
thing
try
this
that.
weekend.
We should try that.
So
Dip a little bit.
we have some new recipes to try. John, before we go, I want to ask you about. Oh, I'm sorry, Gary. Go ahead.
Oh, sorry. Okay. And that is news of the weird.
Stepped on Gary's toes. Sorry.
That's okay. It's okay. It's okay. It didn't hurt.
John, before we go, I have two questions for you. I see behind you, and you know, on Facebook, you post a lot of pictures of your dogs. Tell us a little bit about your dogs that you have. How
Yeah,
many do you have?
we're down to 3.
Okay.
We have 3. We have a Weimaraner, Charlie. He's 12, and we have 2 girl terrier mixes, Tally and Pinky, and they're both about 8. Yeah, so we have 3. We've had Weimaraners as long as we were married. So for as long as we were married, 14 years. We'll be 14 years this month, next week. 14 years.
Happy anniversary.
Happy
Thank you.
anniversary.
Thank you. Yeah, we've had Weimaraners. We've always had at least 1, usually 2. Last year we lost our 16-year-old. He was 1 month away from being 16. So we're down to 3. 3 is a good number.
And are they very docile dogs?
Oh no, not at all. They're I mean, they're very nice. They're very nice. They're very playful, super high energy. I mean, our 12-year-old is still 2 90% of the time. He's basically 2 or sleeping.
Yeah.
They're a ton of fun. I mean, they're just super high energy, super lovable, very affectionate. Velcro dogs, they're called. I mean, they want to be right next to you or on top of you all the time. Yeah, I love the Weimaraners. They're amazing.
Yeah, the pictures you always post, they seem like they're just kind of like lounging around, but it must be when they're sleeping.
Yeah, pretty much.
Not the other 98% of the time.
After they've worn themselves out crazy, just like getting into everything they possibly can, doing zoomies and being nuts, then they're amazingly adorably and sweet and cuddly and cute. And they pass out on you.
Yep.
And then one final question, because I met you when Jill was working at Sears, and you were John from Shoes.
Yeah, I was.
I want to ask you because what did you learn working at Sears
Oh my
that kind of has stuck with you? Because you're very successful. I was looking your profile up on LinkedIn, and I don't even understand what you do.
Crazy.
But you're not selling shoes at Sears anymore. Rest in peace, Sears. But kind of talk a little bit about just real quick before we head out, kind of the fundamental things like as work ethic, customer service that you learned working at Sears.
Yeah,
in the
sure.
shoe department.
That's a great question. Honestly, I love Sears. There's a funny story about Sears, which leads to my most current job that I'm working now, position, career change. But, oh man, what I learned at Sears was like, you can have fun at work. Like work doesn't have to be a job. You can have fun at work because I could talk a lot about Sears, Brian. I mean, like honestly, this is a long story, but looking back to when we worked at Sears, right? It was me and my buddies, and we were doing commission sales, and we would get to the point we were happy, and then we would go hang out in the mall. We'd walk down the mall. And what we would work with would be thrilled, because all their competition to sell stuff just left. So we'd be like, hey, we're going to go down the mall. We go down the mall. We talk to our friends that worked in the mall, right? We talk to girls. We'd go get lunch, right? Come back an hour later and we'd go sell another one thing and we'd be like, yeah, we're good. And we'd do it again. And that was the day. So I learned that you can have fun at work, right? Doesn't have to be a job. You don't have to hate your job. That was the takeaway there. Like you can actually enjoy what you're doing. You can enjoy the people you're working with. And through that open communication to those people you're working with, right? It wasn't like they weren't like, oh, where's the rest of the team? We were saying, if it wasn't busy, we were like, hey, do you care if we go down, go for a walk? And they didn't care because
Right.
that gave them more opportunity to sell stuff. So you can have fun at work. I learned that if you talk, it was a sales position, but if you didn't treat it like a sales position and you just treated it like a conversation of why are you here? How can I help you? Right? If you talked about it more about helping somebody, they were more open to talk to you, number one, as opposed to like going in and trying to sell them something. So if you think about it, you walk into the store and somebody tries to sell you something, unless you really want to buy something, you really need help. Your initial reaction is like, I don't need anything. Thanks. Right. If you go into it with more of like, is there anything you need? How can I help you? What are you looking for today? I'm here if you need something, just let me know. I'm not going to hound you. They're more open to taking your help or coming back and answer the questions. So like, I learned that a lot. Don't go into sales as sales, but go into it as customer success or how you're going to help somebody, right? Put the customer first. Do that first. And I think I learned that personally. What I learned is that it's okay to be late because it was great, and I was always late. I'm not sure if that's a good thing, but I'm still late for everything in life, and I feel like it might be a bad thing because I got to at least where I'm at today. I think those were probably my three biggest takeaways, right? Like, how do you have fun at work? How do you help somebody else? Because ultimately, I think that we'll come back and help yourself, right? And
Right.
and maybe just don't take it too seriously, right? Like it's okay to be late. It's like if you do good at what you do, right? People are forgiving if you're late or if you have to leave early or something like that, right?
Right.
Okay, so I think those are my three biggest takeaways. And I think as I applied that through from when I left Sears, I went into a career in IT. I went to school for IT and I went into a career for IT and I progressed through that to career. And throughout that career, I applied those same things. Like, how do I have fun? How do I not take it too seriously? Right. And how do I help others? And doing that, at least personally for me, made work enjoyable. And that doesn't say that work wasn't stressful. It doesn't say there wasn't days I hated it. But the days that it was stressful, the days that I hated it were easily outweighed to think about the days that I liked it or the opportunities that I had gotten through looking at the positive sides of it. So that's a big thing to me. Like that's probably one of my pet peeves whenever anybody's like focused on the negativity as opposed to like finding the positive in things. Just because I think that like there's always negativity and you can focus on that, but I just don't think that really gets you anywhere. And I think like at least personally for me, it's not personal, I guess, right? But personally,
Right.
you can find the thing that's going to get you over that negativity and how you can find the positive outcome on it. I think that just helps you move forward and do more positive things, right? So throughout my career, after I left Sears, I was 16 years at essentially one place. It was a few different places. There was acquisitions and they were eventually acquired. It was an acquisition-based company. I had a lot of opportunities. I got to meet a lot of people. I got to travel the world. I got to do a lot of great things, and I always tried to find the positive outcomes in that. And there was definitely the stressful times in my life. And I always said that, when I'm ready to retire, and I use retire in air quotes as like when I'm ready to leave this career that I just worked, this 16-year career type of thing, or whatever it is, when I'm ready to retire and I'm ready to go do the next thing, what am I looking for? And it wasn't really to retire, but it was just something left that could still have those attributes in it. And I had a dream one night. No joke. I had a dream one night that I was back at Sears. 100%, swear to God, I had a dream that I was back at Sears. Everybody was there, and it was absolutely great, and I loved it. And I woke up, and I woke up, and I said, that was the best time, because like I was so carefree, and like all those great things that I just mentioned, right? And I said to myself, why didn't I ever think about doing that in an IT perspective? Like, why didn't I ever think about getting into IT sales? I work with IT sales folk now, and there's some that I love, and there's some that I do not answer their calls. Right? It was the split spectrum. There were the people that I would get an email from, or I would get a phone call from, and they were the salespeople. And I was like, I don't have the time to answer their phone and tell them I'm not interested in talking to them. Like, I don't want to buy anything from them. And then there were the other folks that I would see them call, and I initially didn't have any reason to talk to them, but I would see them and I'd be like, oh, Joe's calling. Like, oh, I wonder how he's doing. Hey, Joe, what's going on? And it was just a conversation. He really, yeah, he was trying to call. He was calling to try to see if he could sell me something. I know that. But he wasn't calling to sell me something. He called to see how things were going, if there was anything he could help me with, right? And the conversation that we had, maybe it was coincidental, but it always led to something that maybe I just came out of a meeting, and in the back of my head, it was like, oh, I need to go find out these 3 things in the next week, right? And I'd see Joe call, and I'd be like, oh my God, it's Joe. And I'd take the call, and I'd be excited to talk to him. And we would somehow end up talking about those 3 things. And through the conversation, he would help me realize, like, he would help me get the answers that I was looking for to go solve these things. And of course, I would be like, oh my God, maybe you can help me. Like, maybe I can get you this sale, right? And I would try. And it just felt so natural, but it always felt like he was calling to try to help me. And I would always take those calls. And there was a handful of people like that. And then there was everybody else. Back to my dream. I had this dream about being in sales. And I said, how do I be like that, right? I said, why didn't I ever think about applying myself like that? If I take all the good qualities about that, there's these great group of people that I love talking to, and it seems like they really like their job too. Why didn't I ever think about applying that? And about 2 days later, I get a phone call from someone that I worked with previously for 9 years. And every year he called me, he left. And every year he called me, he's like, you gotta come work with me. And I'd say, yeah, but I'm not ready to leave, or, the money wasn't right, or that's not the right opportunity. It wasn't the right opportunity. And he called me on Thursday at 2:00 in the afternoon when I was outside walking my dog in the backyard. And I was Jim, and I'm like, hey, Jim, what are you doing? I got the one. And I laughed and I rolled my eyes and I was like, what do you got this time? We got this sales position. And I listened. I'm like, a sales position? I'm not in sales. I've done sales since Sears. It's been 16 years, right? How did you think of me? He's like, it's not really a sales position. It's exactly what I was looking for, right? It's customer success focused. It's more about finding new things and helping people and all this stuff. And yeah, at the end of the day, you're going to go sell somebody something if you can, but that's not the focus of it. And I was blown away by this opportunity. And I said, sounds great. Let's see if you think the money's there, let's see if you can make it work. And we had the conversations, and it worked. So I took that opportunity last January, which it was exciting and it was different. It was me hitting the reset button, but it's also me looking for that retirement where I was able to, retire from the career that I was building, hand it off to the team that was there to continue running the ship that, we had put in motion, and go try this new thing, which coincidentally, I just had a dream that sounded awesome about. And, I took it, and it's been, 14 months now. It was January of last year, and it's been amazing. I love it. Don't regret it at all. And I'm super excited to just keep doing that same motion of, how can I help others help themselves? And if I just focus on that, I think good things will come my way too.
Very good. Interesting story. I appreciate you sharing that with us.
Yeah.
And I think it's important, like having a job as a kid, you learn a lot of life skills that, like you're saying, 16 years down the road kind of opens up a door for you again. You're like, oh, I really enjoyed doing that.
Yeah,
So
yeah. If you can learn something, you still apply. And honestly, this Pagash review things, it's the same way. Honestly, if you look at where this happened, I said it started with, how can I keep track of this myself? And then it led into, well, how can I keep track of it for others and share information to help them go make decisions about where to try things, right? And I think realistically, if you look at the last year, NEPA Pizza reviews, people were asking him about Pagash, and he was like, "Yeah, it's great, but I don't really like Pagash. Why don't you go to Pagash reviews?" And then Froggy 101 liked the page or whatever, and that brought a lot more followers, which brought a lot more. Oh, maybe I should do more. Yeah, I don't have to, but I just felt like there's more people asking now. Let
right.
me do more. And this year, it's honestly the same way. It's like there's NEPA Pizza reviews. There's Adam from Foodigenous, and there's Brian from Damadia's, and we're looking to meet up at the end of the month here. And basically, we're all looking to help each other and just share each other's pages and share each other's information, because I think we all have the same goal of how do we just share this information to help other people make informed decisions and give them content or information that they care about. There's nothing forcing them to look at any of our pages, right? So if there's something they want to know about, I think we all have content that we're happy to share. And it's a cool little community that I think we're building. And I'm kind of looking forward to next year. It's a little bit of a commitment during Lent, but it's also something for me to do during the winter, right? It's the winter. What else am I going to do? So
Right.
that's what I do for Pagash reviews. And I think I've gotten a lot of ideas this year, and I'm kind of getting some ideas for next year about how we can expand it a little bit more.
Well, it sounds good. Like I said, for the last few years now, I've always enjoyed your reviews of Pagash. So thank you for coming on to talk to us about it. Again, for anyone listening or watching, it's facebook.com/Pagash reviews. And you can follow John's page on there. Of course, in 2 days on Friday, he'll have, where are you going this Friday, John?
I'm not sure yet. You know what?
I'm not sure yet. Okay.
The last minute thing. I will look Friday and I will figure it out, and I will figure it out Friday. There's still tomorrow too. Tomorrow's Wednesday. I'm not sure where I'm going tomorrow yet.
Okay. So tune in to the Pagash Reviews page on Facebook to follow John. Also the Margaret Street Hose Company?
Meredith Street.
Meredith Street.
Carbondale. Yeah.
Sometime in May if you want to try John's sopressata.
Yep.
And John, like I said, I've known you probably since you're 18.
16, 18, yeah, somewhere around there.
So
a couple of years.
You've grown up to be a nice young man.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining us. As always, kudos to my co-host and producer extraordinaire, Gary McDaniel. I'm Brian Lennon, and thank you for watching and listening to The Brian Lennon Show, the one about Pagash.
Pagash out.